to the Wolverine State Podcast here. I'm Jackson Pugh. And first thing we're going to talk about today, the Detroit Red Wings, because I was embarrassed with what I saw on Twitter last night and what I've seen all over social media with Fire Blashil. Yes, this team has not played well. So, if you haven't been following the Red Wings, they've lost 3 games in a row. They've scored 1 goal in the last 2 games. And last night, I think they had 6 shots on goal through the first 2 periods, which is absolutely embarrassing. Yes, this team has played really, really bad the past 3 games, and it's looked really bad. But you have to understand the context. And you have to understand the guys that were out. And you have to understand what the expectations were before the season anyway. So about the expectations. I said I expected this team to get 77 points. I knew that Vrana being out, Bertuzzi being out for some games was going to be tough on this team. And right now they're on pace for about 75. So they're pretty much doing what I expected. And there's going to be ebbs and flows this season. There's times they're going to look good. There's times they're going to look bad. That's what happens when you have a young, developing team, which is exactly what this is. And then you look at also what's happened the past 4 games. It's been absolute chaos with this roster. So you haven't had Jacob Vrana because obviously he's dealing with a surgery, and he's one of the best players on this team. Bertuzzi, the second leading goal scorer on this team, out for 2 games because he can't play in Canada. And then Dylan Larkin, for personal reasons, which we won't try to get into, he's missed the last 3 games. So 3 of the top 5 players have been missing a majority of the action. You can't expect this team to pick up the slack. And you can't expect Blashil to do a whole lot. Yes, Seider and Raymond have both been great this year, but they're 19 and 20 years old. They can't lead the pack. They can't do it all on their own. And then you look at the other guys in this roster. It's pretty much full of veterans that are pretty much there to guide the young guys, but they were never meant to be key contributors on this team, other than Nick Leddy, who I think is an average player, and Puis Suter, who showed some flashes last year in Chicago. I think he's an average player. But that's about it. That's about it for the rest of this roster. Otherwise, everybody else looking very, very average. Fabry and Nemestikov are okay players. But then again, nothing special. And then you look at the rest of the defensemen. I think that's the real weakness of this team. After Seider, you got Leddy, who is decent. But then Stahl, DeKaiser, really what they are veterans that are helping guide the young bucks. And I don't anticipate them being on the team next year. Pretty much just there to help Seider develop. And then Hronek has kind of been a disappointment, part of the coaching tree of Ken Holland. So really, there's no key contributors on this roster right now outside of Raymond and Seider. And we knew this. We knew this before the season started, that depth was an issue with this team. And you can't expect Jeff Blashil to win games with these guys on the ice and without some of his key contributors. So that's why it's time to take a deep breath. Sometimes, when you start the season really hot like the Red Wings did, you start getting excited, you start thinking about the playoffs, but then when they start losing, you get upset. This is normal for a young team. Ebbs and flows. They've had a few bad games without their key players, and it's hard to win without your captain, period. I don't care which NHL team you're on. Your captain's one of your most important players, and not having Dylan Larkin and being concerned about him really, really hurts this team. So it's time for people to just tone it down a little bit, take a deep breath, and realize that we still have a very bright future. What's going to happen when all these guys come back? When, Bertuzzi doesn't get eliminated from playing in Canada just because he's not vaccinated, or he does decide to get the vaccine and everything changes. What if Vrana comes back, and what if Larkin finally comes back? Then this team is playing good hockey again. And even with these guys, this wasn't expected to be a playoff team. Let me just make that 100% clear. So already, they've pretty much met my expectations, or met the blueprint, or the benchmark, I should say, for what I expected. And then you look at the farm system. The Red Wings still have one of the best farm systems in the league. And they're still going to get a high draft pick this year because this team is not making the postseason, or at least is going to be very close, but is not going to go anywhere in the Stanley Cup. Should get a decent draft pick, and Yzerman is the kind of guy where it doesn't matter if he's drafting 4th, he's drafting 8th, he's going to find the best guy available. And it might not hurt to get 10 or 11 in the draft, because then you can pick up another defenseman, which is what this team needs. But you got Edvinsson developing in the minors. He's been playing really well from what I've heard. Kosa, the goalie, has been tremendous. And Bergen, the second-round pick, has been awesome as a forward. So there's a very bright future for this team. And the core of this team, Vrana, Bertuzzi, Larkin, Seider, Raymond, Edvinson, Bergugian, and Kosa, Nemestikov, looks very good. They're just not all on the ice yet. And once all those guys get on the ice at the same time, then that's when you can start having high expectations for this team. But in this super chaotic season where, you're dealing with Bertuzzi's vaccination situation, injuries, personal issues, and guys just being young. Let's just be real. Seider and Raymond, as good as they are, they're too young to put the whole team on their back. And the truth is, they kind of have the past few games. But you can't expect a whole lot out of this lineup from Blashil. So that's why I'm going to give him a pass for these few games. Take a deep breath. Blashil is doing a great job this season. And the Red Wings are going to be fine. Relax. Now with the Detroit Pistons, I feel a little bit differently about Dwayne Casey. Stay tuned, as coming up next, we'll talk about the Detroit Pistons and their whole situation with Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham. It's been a mess. All right. See you all in a bit.